morning, everyone, and welcome to Talking Horses. Acacia Clement and Andy Serling. We are a little pressed for time, so we're going to roll right into the changes, or we have the changes, I'm sorry, the slates. Head over to NYRA Bets. If you're not a member of NYRA Bets, no better time than the present to play through NYRA Bets. Use the promo code MATCH200, and we'll match the $200 of your initial deposit. We also have, this will shock you, yep, you got a middle pick four. I don't know if you heard about it, but we have a middle pick four. I guess there'll be races 2, 4, and 7 of our 10 race card today. 2 pick 5s, also races 1 and 6, and a pick 6 as well. What else do we have? We have a $5,000 hit and split, the early pick 5 at Aqueduct, so opt in for that. You want to get involved in that. Play through NYRA Bets, opt in, and you will share in $5,000 if you hit the late pick 5. And finally, we have no show today. You got us between races, me and Greg sort of sharing the duties with Acacia down in the paddock. Is it warm enough? It's not that bad.
It's not that bad, actually.
It's not great.
No, not
Okay,
at all.
it's a beautiful day, actually. It's
Yeah.
nice. All right, let's go. Race number 1. What'd you do?
I went to Swept, the one. This is because I picked him last time, and I was hoping that he would kind of be like a new face coming in. He'd been gelded after being really, really green in that first start in May, and I thought just last time he just didn't look fit. Hopefully he'll have benefited from the race. He was kind of in an odd, off the pace, outside no man's land position. So I'm hoping just the drop in class, second off the bench, and in a race that he was kind of against the flow of it, he'll improve today.
Yeah, I'm with you in that, well, I mean, I picked a different horse than you on top. I have the 1 second. I don't want the horses that have run. I don't particularly want Mad Banker, who I don't really trust, who obviously has a chance, the number 6. You like him a little bit more than I do, though I have him 3rd, you have him 2nd. And running Lucky and a Knight's Courage will show them running 2nd and 3rd. I don't know. I just feel like they're coming out of a super weak race. I know they were wired by a 44-5 shot in the race. I just thought it was a very hungry field, and I'm going to ride the David Duggan train. You know, I know most of those horses he did well with. There was 1 firster, but there were also 3 horses, a win in 2 seconds, that were shipping up from Colonial Downs to run the turf, and this is a different one for different connections. Paid $100,000 after a respectable 10 1/5 workout. I'm just going to go with David Duggan in this one, who's having a good week. I don't have a strong opinion in this race, except I don't want really the horses with experience among the 4, 6, and 8.
I agree. I wanted kind of a new face. I took a drop-down runner. As far as the Delaware boys, I didn't love that workout going 10 and 1. Really had to be asked to finish, which you don't love. And it does concern me a bit that they did pay 6 figures and he debuts for the 30 later in the season.
Yeah, I guess in their running where he belongs, but
Sure.
I think those are very, very fair points. Race number 2. Race number 2, we'll go back to the maiden win by Ironworks back in April of 2022, and the trajectory of racehorses, while sometimes it goes well, frequently things go awry.
Yeah.
And they paid a lot of money for this horse, $550,000, and he looked promising. And this is about as suspicious a drop down as you'll ever see. But on the other hand, they're coming to the winter, and Todd Pletcher is clearly emptying horses out of his barn. I tried, Acacia, to find somebody to pick against him. I just don't like anybody else in here. And if he can run at all anymore, he's going to win and pay $270.
I know.
Not proud of the pick, but I just couldn't endorse anybody else.
I took gut feeling, begrudgingly, just looking for somebody else. As you said, it feels like a suspicious drop down. Todd Pletcher does win with these types. I feel like in my year spent at Gulfstream, you see a lot of horses that look like this, that he really tries to kind of move along over the winter and just have more quality coming into the spring. And that could really be the same kind of case with this one. But the blinkers on, the drop, I knew he broke sharply last time and he was just facing so much better horses. He absolutely could win. I just tried to get a little bit creative with gut feeling, going back down to the level at which Linda Rice claimed him. Ran behind Mama's Gold, who came back to win again, improving his buyer 6 points with an 83 next time out.
Yeah, and he was a little against the track last time, so I thought he ran fine. I had him 2nd as well. Todd Pletcher, I looked some stats. At NYRA, first time for a tag on the dirt, he's 35 for 113, 31% with a $2.01 ROI, which is pretty remarkable, especially for Todd Pletcher, because a lot of these drop downs are short prices. Listen, I'm not proud of it. I just didn't really want to take him on top, and Devil's Key is probably the speed in here. but he's got to get a mile amongst these, and I just don't really trust him.
That's my concern. If he had one better race going a little bit longer, I would have put him on top because he is the controlling speed. I just really don't think he wants this far.
The thing that's suspicious about the Ironworks drop is he's running okay, but maybe Todd looks at it and says, I could wait around to try to find a $40,000 claimer, which might be too tough for him anyway, running low 80 buyers. He probably won't quite run that number. And I think sometimes these drop downs, the more you think about them, is they're just kind of running where they belong, where they're likely to win, get claimed, get the money, and move on. He's no longer worth the $550,000. That's the way it goes. You can buy horses like Forte for $110,000 and end up making millions with them. You can buy them for millions and end up making pennies with them. It's just the way the game goes.
Tough game.
I mean, I think that's an interesting segue into race number 3. And, you know, I want to talk a little about the horse you have on top because I thought I'll let you talk about it. I thought his first race was very interesting, but I have a concern with this horse. But you can go first.
I do too, because I happened to be in the paddock for that race in which Abaddon wired the field, beating Lucency that day, and he was
a Todd Pletcher horse.
Yes, another Todd Pletcher. Yep. Lucency was an atypical Todd horse. He was acting up really badly before the race. He was very green. It's odd that we haven't seen him since then, type of thing.
He was entered for $40,000.
Yeah,
That's what I don't like. That's what worried me. And I think he's the horse to beat in this race because I don't like the 5.
I just remember thinking that he ran better than I anticipated, given how he was acting before. And so I kind of felt like having a race under his belt, I wanted to give him another chance.
I'll tell you something else I believe about him, and I could be wrong. I think if he wins this race, he's probably wiring the field, though he has to deal now with Authorized, who is going to be forward, so maybe he's close. But I looked at that race, and I thought, you know, with Abaddon for Todd was clearly the speed, and he was kind of the horse to beat in the race anyway, especially how poorly the horse that I like that came from Churchill ran. But he has speed, this horse. He's not slow. And I wondered a little bit if they were a little less aggressive with him because they didn't want to get engaged with Abaddon. It wouldn't have been good for him, and it wouldn't have been good for Abaddon. I don't think it was a case of letting one other horse win. I just think it was a question of he was going to have to deal with a superior horse with more speed. And I think he's actually much more forward than that. I don't love that he was entered and scratched for 40. Maybe it's a good sign. Maybe they said, you know what, we don't want to give him away just yet. Let's give him a chance in maiden specials. Authorize. He's a nightmare seeing him reappear. You don't have him in the top 4. We'll show his debut, and he lost to Bridal Bomber. This was funny because I had a big argument with David Aragona. It was an ongoing argument for about a year before. For one of those rare times, David actually agreed. I thought the rail was very good, and while he's drifting here, he rode the rail a lot in this race, and he did lose to a horse that came up the rail, and there's David's favorite horse, Bridal Bomber, coming up the rail. I don't know what went wrong. His last race is a horror show for me. I needed him for a score in the pick 5, or Constitution Lawyer, who won his next start, to finish 3rd for a score.
And he's turned out to be pretty good.
Yeah. Where has he been, and what are we going to get from him?
I just don't know. I did not know what to do with him. It was kind of, for me, it was kind of like, okay, I can look at the 2 and the 4 and feel maybe a little bit of confidence with the 2 of them in here. And then I felt the rest of the horses just really had so many questions to answer in this spot, including Authorized. I took a little bit of a step back. I mean, if he runs his debut, he's certainly a huge player in here. I just didn't know if I could trust him. The question is also with the one Burton Way, because he started out in California with some strong races, and I don't know, it seems like the David Jacobson barn is going pretty well at the moment, but you never really know. I think I have no idea if he can run it all anymore.
What about Ringside? See, I think Ringside, and I'll get to the 4 in a second.
I think Ringside is interesting as well.
He comes out of that killer perform maiden race down at Tampa, and the next time he showed up, it not only was a sloppy track at Saratoga, but he also got engaged in a pace that absolutely, totally fell apart in there. I think he's kind of the fuzzy in this race, to be honest, if you want somebody besides the obvious.
He is, and they tried him on the turf last time out, and this was a horse that I had a little bit of interest in towards the beginning of his career, so curious to see what he's going to do. As far as the 4 escalation clause, he worked 20-4 as a 2-year-old last year before selling.
Ahead.
Oh, no, sorry.
Seriously, you could tell me a while. He worked 20-4 at the 2-year-old sale. This is probably the most...
You were rushing me. I got flustered.
You're never flustered, Acacia. This is probably the most expensive Awesome Slew that has ever or will ever be sold at public auction. had an impressive workout, two-year-old sale. And I think because Dylan Davis is on the horse, maybe the horse won't get as much attention. So I thought maybe you get a better price on him than you would if you got a rider that you expect to see on the Chad Brown runners.
I also thought in that workout, and that was a year and a half ago, but he looked like a very lanky type to me, so probably one that would be a little bit later developing, which is an interesting purchase at a 2-year-old sale in a Florida brand as well.
If an Awesome Slew sells for 400,000 2-year-old sale, who's the second choice to Clarivate Stables to have bought it?
I don't know.
It's just
but
hard.
obviously there were other people going after it.
They're going after it, but they got it. We'll see what happens. Interesting race number 3. Race number 4, Prince James is probably the horse to beat. We'll go back to a win of his back in June against Winning Drive, who's also in this field, because there really isn't a lot of form in this race. Lohengrin 2 will be the speed, but he's not really very trustworthy. It's this question of Linda Rice with these drop downs, and we know she has good numbers. Now, she lost yesterday with one that we didn't particularly like that lost a drop down, but these claims and big drop downs, her numbers are close to 50%.
Yeah, and I think it's a really important point. Last time out behind Air Show, who's been in really good form, along with Poppy's Pride, both of those coming out of that race to win. Didn't love that in his last race, he was kind of swishing his tail a little bit when closing, just didn't look entirely comfortable, but absolutely with Linda claiming this horse, I think is a big player. I went to Handsome Cat, and I thought you did, you did as well. The blinker's coming off, I just wanted to note, he wore an extension blinker last time, so that's where the right eye is fully covered. And typically for horses that have the tendency to break out, and he broke slowly, which sometimes Richie McLeory talks about this as well. When they can't see, or maybe they have their head turned, they're not prepared at the gate. So I thought that was an interesting equipment change.
I bet him last time. I thought he was a cinch last time.
Yeah.
I was close to right. He was 6 beaten 18 and never in the hunt.
He was almost there.
I'll tell you one thing, and I'm not sure if you'll be in the. I know you're going to be in the paddock. I don't know if you're in for every
Yes.
race.
Yeah.
He did put fronts on last time, and now he drops precipitously. Chris Englehart.
But Chris Englehart runs everything in 4 wraps.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
good to know.
Yep.
Chris Englehart does not have great numbers dropping, and this is a huge drop. Claimed for 25, didn't run a step. I've got a thing for him. I feel like if he can still run it all, he's going to win this race. I feel like I'm ready to take 6-1 or 8-1 on. It's not a coin flip because maybe he's 20% to show up, but I feel like if he shows up, he's found the right field in here. He'll get some pace, and I think he's better than these horses. But I think at this point you have to be a little bit concerned that he's somewhat damaged goods. He just can't run anymore. FF Rocket seems like the other horse to take in here. I couldn't go past the 1, 2, and 9. If somebody else wins, I'm basically going to lose in this race. He's also a drop down significantly, and times he runs certainly well enough to win. And I think he's kind of the second likeliest winner after the 2.
I have a soft spot for FF Rocket. He's coming back on a pretty quick turnaround, as are several in this race as well. It ran just 8 days ago, but I think the drop really should be key for him.
Yeah, no, we'll see how he does. We'll see. It's an open race if you're trying to beat the 2. Now, race number 5, and we'll take a break after 5. The biggest scratch result situation in today's card is that Triple Espresso gets into this race, and you've put him on top. I moved him into my second pick. I don't know if you had him originally on top or.
No, I didn't. I was hoping that he would draw in because I wanted to use him.
Well, normally I put the A's in. For some reason, I just sort of blanked when I put my picks in, and then when he got in, I realized, well, you should have had him in somewhere anyway. He is the first AE. We'll take a look at his first race. I think a little too much was made of his first effort, and he took way too much money in the Pilgrim.
I think it was because he debuted in a stake behind Talk.
Who's okay. He ran like 5th or 6th in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf.
Absolutely. Definitely. I agree. And I completely agree with that. But I thought that he was very intriguing. First time actually running in a maiden special weight.
He's got to be the right. David must have made him the favorite if he gets in it. And it kind of screws up David's line. Keep in mind, when a horse like this gets in the AEs and he's 2-1, his line is not going to be accurate for the other horses because he would have made it. This horse was the 10. Are you worried at all that he really doesn't seem to have any speed whatsoever?
Yes, he doesn't break well, but I was kind of looking, okay, well, he's drawing in, so he's stuck with an outside post. Doesn't have any speed anyway. He's going to break, drop back, and kind of make that closing run. And there's a lot of unknowns in here.
I mean, probably the best pedigree is the 8 Cugino, who's a half the Battle of Normandy, and Veronica Green, who are both reasonably talented turf horses for Shug. That's probably the best pedigree. There's a lot of interest in the 9 as well. I'll let you talk about him.
This one debuting for Horacio de Paz, sold at the Tattersall's yearling sale for about $115,000. Is half to a horse that was a good turf sprinter in Europe named Capote's Dream, and Mamos is a very good turf sprint influence, so I'm a little concerned about debuting at the mile and a 16th because it is more of a turf sprint pedigree. But I always do just take a look at these Horacio de Paz runners, and I thought that this one was intriguing, and we'll see what we get from him. But I was, like I said, with the connections and the pedigree, thought that he was worth a look.
Yeah, I had him. I had Thornberry also as possible uses, who's got some pedigree on the outside.
Yep.
Junior's riding for Bill Mott. I'm very curious to see Hamilton's way, how he runs, because this was the Twitter argument between Ray Handel and David Aragona.
Oh, really?
About David said,
That's
David
right.
had tweeted that he
I
has
didn't
more of a
forgot
turf
it was
action.
this horse.
Ray
Yeah.
took great offense to it. I mean,
He
Ray,
does have pedigree
they
to
were
be
having
turf,
fun.
you know. Yeah,
I mean,
the dam was turf.
Ray has
synthetic.
great respect for David. I think that's why. But he does have turf pedigree. The dam's a
Yep.
multiple winner. So I'm actually rooting for this horse to do well or run at least reasonably well to keep the conversation going. Listen, I took the Klarovich runner. I don't know. I know that they kind of like this horse first time. And this is a horse that you and I talked about because he's a half to Drake's Passage.
Who
And
started on the turf.
Right, because the dam is all turf. And Chad Brown said to me, I was thinking this horse was a turf horse, and then I realized that Christophe was probably right because he thought the same thing I thought with Drake's Passage, and he turned out to be wrong, that he's really a dirt horse. And so he said, I'm going to run him on the dirt. But maybe, you know, the individuals are different. He's thinking, you know, Chad's saying he's a gun runner, but they can run in the grass. So I'm taking a shot. He'll be, because the 11 gets in, you'll get a reasonable price on him. Listen, they won with one last week that they were very high on. They paid almost $11. So we'll see how it works out. I have no idea if they like this horse in the grass or not, but I'm going to give him one more
I'm
chance.
very, very interested with him getting onto the turf for the first time because of that, and he does have the pedigree for it. There's some nice pedigrees in here as well. The other one for Chad, just I thought worth a mention for Todd, but Demarchelier, who we haven't seen many of. I thought the
Won
2-year-old
the other day,
work,
right?
yes. I thought the 2-year-old work was very turf action, and curious of what that one's going to do. Even Enlighten in the second generation has a bit of turf pedigree too.
I'd like to see Demarchelier do well as a sire, not just because our friends at Claiborne stand him, but because if he can, I think it will help open it up for more of these European pedigrees to get a chance to be stallions, because people are reticent because all the big money goes for horses for dirt horses, but we run so much turf racing, and if a horse like Demarchelier, who's not even at top level, I mean, he got hurt before he had a chance to show what he could do, I think it could really help other horses, especially these European pedigrees, get deals. We'll take a break. We'll be back with the late pick 5, which includes 2 stake races.
Born in the foothills of the Adirondacks over 150 years ago, the Saratoga brand has become synonymous with quality. Carefully crafted spring water. Each stunning blue glass bottle is created with the same attention to detail and care that has been the Saratoga hallmark for generations. So open a bottle, take a sip, and savor the Saratoga experience. Saratoga, an American classic that's always in good taste. Make every day exquisite.
Welcome back to Talking Horses, presented by our friends at Saratoga Springwater, Acacia Clement and Andy Serling. And the Pebbles, I guess, is being run now, I think, for the second time at Aqueduct, and it should be run at Aqueduct, considering Pebbles won here. It's an interesting argument between experience and sort of somewhat brilliance shown in a first start. And if you go for the experience, you're going the horse I have second and you have third in the 6 Sacred Wish, and also Silver Skillet as well. I thought they both enjoyed excellent trips in this Winter Memories. We'll take a look at that replay. I also think they ran well. I'll give them a chance to get the replay going.
Sacred Wish did not have a good trip in the Valley View, though.
Right. I thought it was very much a race that was dominated forward, the Winter Memories, and dominated by horses that saved ground. Same the horse on the lead, who's just not very good. And she had a terrible trip last time out. But I'll tell you something, a terrible trip. She was taken out of position early.
She was.
That was her problem.
Yeah.
She had a good trip after that, but she didn't have the position she wanted. But you know what I didn't love? Is that, now, Surge Capacity is a better horse than her, and she'd be a big favorite in this race. But to be fair, Surge Capacity got completely stopped top of the stretch, had to wait and go around. She has momentum coming out. in here, Sacred Wish, and they were basically in even terms past the 8th pole, and Surge Capacity just ran away from her in that stage, and that kind of bothered me. I thought she kind of could have won from where she was, but she did have an excuse.
I think some horses, when they're taken out of their comfort zone, just can't overcome whatever's thrown at them, and she might be a horse like that. And I think you kind of saw it with George Weaver, because she was obviously second in the Coaching Club of American Oaks, grade 1 place on dirt, and he's kind of saying, look, she's not really up to the level of the elite dirt horses of her division. And let me see if we can put her on the turf. It opens up a whole nother window of opportunity for her. And I think it was a really, really smart move, because she obviously doesn't want to go the distance of the kind of classic type of races like the Alabama. She really only runs her race when she's in that tactical stalking kind of spot.
Which she should be today.
She should be today. And I thought that it was a really smart move to switch her to the turf, and she got that kind of trip in the Winter Memories. Maybe she's just the horse that if she doesn't get her trip, she doesn't put forth her big effort, which can be a little bit
You're
tough.
right. It's a very good point, though. I mean, not that she ran badly last time, and that was a figure they lowered that I'm wondering if it's right, because it doesn't make a lot of sense
She
for the
runs
horses
against
in the
some very
race.
good horses in there.
Yeah. Then there's Rhiannon, who we have on top. And my friend Sean mispronounced the name to me last night. I asked him if he had heard of the band Fleetwood Mac.
They were kind of popular.
Probably the overlay of the century that somehow this horse paid $9. And Chad even talked about it with Maggie in the show yesterday, and I knew this. He loved this horse first
I
time.
know.
And
I loved her first
She
time.
didn't run. It was also a muddy track, too. But, man, I mean, this was a joke. And horses don't win like this on the turf.
I think that the reason, and it's absolutely nothing against him, it's just a rider that Chad doesn't typically use. When we saw Kendrick Carmouche aboard her, it was a little bit of hesitancy, maybe. And the fact that she had not run well on the dirt and then switching to the turf. But she has turf pedigree. The second dam is actually the sister to Divine Oath. The dam was good on the turf as well. And I remember seeing her and just being kind of enamored with her physically first time out. And I picked her, even though I wrote in my notes, could be long on turf. And that's when she switched, and she obviously is. I think she has a world of talent. Obviously, she's spotting some of the others in the field with experience, but I think she could be the goods.
I agree. But it feels like throughout my life, these are the kind of horses that end up short prices, that end up lacking experience. And the same could be said for Startup Mentality, who I think was visually impressive. Now, obviously, she didn't run as fast on figures as we take a look at her race at Monmouth as Rhiannon did. But I think she's probably closer. And she also was the only one that made any kind of move in this race. She was off the rail the entire race, 3 to 4 wide in the second turn, and she just wins for fun in this race. Now, I don't think she's going to beat Rhiannon, but I got a feeling she's a little better than that 77 buyer may suggest.
Yeah, I could certainly see that. She was a little bit green in the running of the race, too, finishing up, but I think she just kind of had that raw talent in the way that she finished. It was almost like her feet were moving too fast. She couldn't really keep up with it. So there's absolutely an opportunity for her to step forward in here today.
You like Plenitude a little bit, stretching out. I think she's interesting as well.
She has the pedigree to go longer, and if you're wondering why we haven't seen her since July, she's been scratched at least, I want to say 3 or 4
Welcome to the club.
times. Yeah, she has had the toughest time getting into a race, being stuck on the also eligible list, or horses or races coming off the turf.
Well, I mean, also meant same thing with Rhiannon and Startup Mentality. They were entered in non-winners of one a few weeks ago that got rained off.
Exactly. So this released the foal to Agate Road, who we saw in the Pilgrim, and I thought actually finished up okay. And the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf made a little bit of a late run in there. The dam won the Frizette for Christoph, and I've just been excited to get a chance to see her come back. Unfortunately, like Agate Road, she is a little bit quirky pre-race as well, but like I said, finally getting to see her back in the race, and I do think that she improved a lot getting onto the turf.
Yeah, I think she's certainly dangerous in this race. And Yellow Agate ran a huge figure in her debut before she won the Frizette. I think she ran like an 88. I think Implicate's not going to run that badly. I know, coming out of that first race, might have needed that race and could take a step forward, but this is a tough race to need to take a step forward, a good running of the
That's a fun
Pebbles.
one.
Pebbles is always a good race. Race number 7. I guess the horse to beat or the favorite is Happy Bob. I got to tell you, you and I agree completely on this race, or not completely, but very much. I'm just not a Happy Bob fan.
Well, he's dropping off a voided claim, and I guess I know that he ran okay 2 starts back. He's a little bit keen on the front end, trying to run off and set the pace, and wasn't able to do so. He's sticking at the mile. I don't know. I just don't really trust him.
Also, Let's take a look at Kingdom breaking his maiden back at Oaklawn. Now, I don't know if Kingdom can run anymore, and he's taking a big drop. But you have to imagine the drop, if he can run at all anymore, he's going to be forward in this race. And that's not good for Happy Bob, because I don't think Happy Bob is getting this mile unless he's able to control on the front end. I have no confidence in him having to deal with the speed, and I think Kingdom's dangerous. Now, I have no idea with Jacobson. To me, if you like a horse of his, you flip a coin and ask yourself if it's going to run today. And I'm not saying this is some kind of knock on David. It's more of a knock on me. I have absolutely no idea what to do with his horses. They look good on paper. They don't run well. They don't look that good. They run well. I find him to be a complete and total enigma.
It is tough, but I would say one thing you can count on, it is a significant drop, second time with the barn, but one thing you can count on with the blinkers on and the stretch out, he should send. That's why I was hoping that Inspector, who's maybe not the easiest to trust either, but he's dropping back down to the 16, he should hopefully be in the perfect spot to get the trip.
And also, they ran him back 13 days after his race off the claim.
And he doesn't carry a lot of weight. He's a very slender type of horse.
I think if he runs the race he ran off the claim, he'd be very tough in here. That was a pace that fell apart at the end. It was a 16, but that was an extreme. We've all talked about that. That was a 16 that was really a 25 or higher. That was an extremely tough. And that's one of the reasons Brooklyn Diamond, seemingly moving up the next time, was actually kind of moving down because it was such a tough field. So I, like you, I'm hoping he can get back to that race. I obviously don't trust him either, but I hoped he just ran back too soon. I kind of wanted to make a little case for Uncle Waterflow as well, who was down in the inside where a lot of horses didn't run last time, but it's not clear the rail was bad.
That's fair. I just, the gaps in his races concerned me, and then went into the 16 last time, but that's a fair point. I just didn't want Happy Bob. Yeah, I didn't either.
I could use the 1, 4, and 8 as my 3 horses, so I'm going to play multis, and if Happy Bob wins, I'm out. He's a favorite that I'm willing to let beat me, and I'm going to use the 1, 4, and 8 in here to try to beat him. That's just sort of, I don't have a strong opinion. Well, the biggest lock of the day, if somebody had asked me to make a lock of the day, it would have been that as we turn to race number 8, would be that Colonel Bowman would scratch. Because I could be wrong, but for a dirt-entered horse that was in the body of the race, he's got to hold the NYRA record for number of scratches over the last 4 months.
It's unbelievable, really.
I mean, seriously, it's getting to the point where honestly, it's annoying to horse players, these entries. David rarely runs an entry. He enters a lot of entries. He's allowed to do whatever he wants. I'm not knocking him. He can do what he wants. But it's problematic. But at this point, you look at the race with Colonel Bowman's enter, and you think, I'm not even going to waste a minute looking at him because he's not running.
I know. The disappointing scratch, really, for me was the 6, My Harbor Stream.
I agree. But on the other hand, you probably didn't want him if he's coming out of the race. But I agree. I liked him as well as you did. And Divine Armor becomes the horse to beat. And we'll go back and we'll take a look at his race at Santa Anita 3 back when he won. I don't have any knock on his races. I just don't trust him.
No, I agree. And also, are we sure that he's better cutting back in distance?
I'm not sure of anything. When it comes to David Jacobson, sure isn't a word that enters my vocabulary.
He's been running longer. I mean, he seems like lately he's kind of been a typical miler. The most recent sprint effort, he finished second. It was fine, but it seems like his mile races are a bit quicker, and I just don't really know what to do with him. He has a new face, if nothing else.
Yeah, well, you are right, though. He could really be out the back door in this race at a pretty short price. So, we went to the horse that has the recency of Victoria's Wave.
Yep, and I was a little bit hesitant with him last time, and he won again. And he's been in good form, and yes, he's stepping up now to the next level after running and having a voided claim for 22 back, but obviously he's a horse that's doing well and holding his form.
I agree. It's just I don't want to take the one on top at a short price. And American Monarch, we'll take a look at him back in March of 2022, his last dirt races.
Today
yeah, it's big layoff day for Bill. I know he's got 2 horses with almost 2-year layoffs. And listen, this race showed he lost to Mr. Phil. I thought the track there was a speed edge to the track, so he wasn't against the track. But Mr. Phil was allowed to control in the front, and at this time, Mr. Phil was in great form. I looked up Bill Mott, 365 days, a year on the dirt. He's 2 for 12 with a 93-cent ROI. It's just a non-sample. It just, all it says is that he runs a couple of horses like this a year and they rarely win.
Right.
I don't want him at a short price in here, but he can win.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if he I mean, it's a big if. Does he run back to what he was doing in early 2022 when he was just running against so much better horses and horses at that time, as you said, that were in really good form?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not going to be surprised if he wins, but like you, after what was left in here, I just wanted the horse who showed the best recent form. And he's going to be forward in this race. And I'm not sure how much speed there's really going to be in here.
No, I agree.
Race number 9, the Red Smith Camp, an extremely fun race. I was surprised to see, because I knew that Red Run was coming out, the Classic
Catch didn't stay in.
Todd's
it
been
seems
trying to
they've
run
been
us
wanting to
a
run him on the
million times
turf. I know.
What happened, Todd?
Maybe he finally said, we're going to stick with the dirt. I don't know.
I hope he's okay.
Yeah,
He was really
actually
unlucky. He should have won last time.
I was just very curious to see him finally run on the grass.
Well, it is funny. I was talking to David Aragon about this, and he's right. He's saying, I remember when he got rained off in Saratoga, and did you interview
it
him
was
or
Maggie, but he said, I still want to run on the turf.
I was on with Paul, and I said, when Maggie's going to say, you know, he's one of the dirt or whatever, and I say, you watch, he's going to say I'm pointing towards that Jockey Club,
right?
Which he was, and he should have won it off the turf. He was extremely unlucky, and he's run okay in these dirt races, but maybe he looked at it.
I think he's gotten fortunate in his last couple dirt races.
It's also possible he thought I'm going to get post 11 against a very tough field of older horses. Maybe this isn't the race to find out, but he's going to have to find what race is he going to get in Florida going long. Wouldn't you rather run in this turf course and see if he can run well enough to run in those stake races in Florida, or else point in the dirt? Regardless, he's not playing. The horse to beat is Soldier Rising. Will show his distant second place finish in the Joe Hirsch with So High running off. Now keep in mind, I know So High and Romero Mirage deserves great marks for this. This was a very boggy turf course, so I'm not sure we can count on him to run this race, but I think we can count on him, even with main event coming out, to be part of at least should be an honest pace in this race. I love Soldier Rising. I think he's a super cool horse. He just doesn't win.
It's he's kind of like the barn pet. He's an amazing horse to be around. He has run second in all 4 of the long-distance turf Grade 1s on the NYRA circuit this year, which is cool, but also tough, you know.
Well, they weren't that close. It's not
I
like
agree.
They were tough
It's kind of obviously, you know, he's not Zandon. I'm not saying like that, but I think the comparison of like what Chad Brown had said was it's not like he was hanging in finishing second or finishing third in all those races.
With better horses.
Right. Soldier
Up
Rising.
To the mark.
Right.
You know, the
or
runoff.
Like Goddess,
right.
Yeah. I get that. And it's not like he's gotten there and not gotten the job done. He just kind of runs to his competition. He has done that.
He has done
that.
But
not lately. Not in those Grade 1s.
He just hasn't been good enough to get there to hang. I love him. I can't pick him on top.
Come on. You know how I love this horse.
No,
yes.
you know I do too. I just can't.
But yeah, I really hope that he gets a stakes win, because he does deserve his day in the sun, because he always shows up. He runs his race. Unfortunately, he just doesn't really quite seem to have that.
And I'm not holding his bad performance this race against him. That was a time when the turf course, nobody was closing in that race. And
it was the end of his season, and
The horse that I don't want in this race is Cross Border. We'll show him. I think he's the second choice on the line, or he's close, I think, in there. Look, I hope I'm wrong for my friend Kirk Wyckoff. Dave, I looked up Mike Maker. You know, off wins at 1.25 miles above in the turf. He's just 10 for 70.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, his numbers on returns. And listen, he beat Tony Port, who has gotten great turf for him. He blew the field away in the John's Call. I want to see it again. I don't trust him to run back-to-back. I'd love to see this 9-year-old, and I think it's a shame that we don't let 10-year-olds run here, because they make it this far, these horses. I don't know any problem with them running going forward, and I think it's a shame a horse like Cross Border won't be allowed to run at NYRA next year.
He is kind of amazing. I mean, maybe he'll go back to the hurdles, as he did win a race in Aiken over the jumps, which is also incredible.
Well, Jordan Wyckoff's he's very big in the jump set now.
Really, but I just think he's a really cool horse, and New York bred.
Cool.
Yeah, we'll see if he can do it again. He's kind of the one, he wears his heart on his sleeve. You know how he's acting, how he looks before the race, if he's going to run.
I could be wrong. He could run well. I wanted some others in here. You've got Limited Liability on top. I'm going to show his last race, because I have a theory about him, but I'll let you talk about him first.
I have a theory about him as well, and we'll see. I thought that in this race, he was 3 wide early. He never saw the rail. He followed the winner, Bulldog, who was another one of the Godolphin horses.
Well, the winner was on the rail the whole way.
Yes, exactly.
Out.
And when he tipped out, I'm saying late. But Limited Liability never got to see the rail, never got to save any ground in here. I've always felt that
this is not the right race.
I was just saying.
I don't know what race you guys are showing, but I can absolutely promise you that's not a Godolphin horse winning. So that's actually, by the way, we won't show it again. That's 911 Turbo.
Ah, okay.
I think, no, it's not even 911 Turbo. Who the hell was that, guys? Anybody? Who was that?
I don't know. It looks like Keeneland. I didn't look.
Any chance
I
you
didn't look
guys
close
have
enough.
the 9th race from October 13th? Okay, go ahead, talk about him, and
He was
we'll see what shows up for the 911 Turbo
way.
replay.
Never got to save ground on the rail. He was a horse that I was encouraged by. That the races that he's run this year, he was often kind of a disappointment to me last year, and maybe mentally needed a little bit of time to come along.
Like the rest of us.
I'm hoping as a 4-year-old.
I'm going to tell you my theory on him, because I watched both of his last 2 races, and he's a grinder in these
is.
races. Why not just drop? You're going to get a little pace in this race. If you could drop him back and try. Now, I understand he'll be running a similar running style with Soldier Rising. So what? I don't think he's winning grinding. He doesn't seem to have that oomph when he's grinding along. He sort of runs along with a pack. He just kind of runs. I like this horse. I think he's okay. But I wonder if it's just not working with that running style. Now, I don't know how easy it is to change that. And it doesn't make me right. But I was thinking about, because I've always kind of liked this horse. And I was thinking, he just kind of, like, you look at the UN and you look at Sycamore, they're sort of the same races. He just kind of grinds along. And he runs respectively, but he doesn't have any kind of finish. And he's always going to be at a disadvantage in these turf races where horses have legitimate finishes. So that's my knock against him. Let's see what we get. You want to try to show what video you have for 911 Turbo? I feel like he's the one, and I've got him 4th. He might be a little bit dressed up. Good trips, weaker fields, though he did finish 2nd to Gold Phoenix, who was 4th in the Breeders' Cup.
I know that he did, and he ran well that day. Take nothing against him, but I mean, he broke his maiden for 50. I mean, just a few months ago, was running in Starter Allowance Company, and maybe he's surprised Neil Drysdale, and he's turned around. He's been incredibly consistent
6 wins
recently.
in 2 seconds in 8 races.
But with the exception of that Del Mar handicap behind Gold Phoenix, he's just not been running against the level of horse that he's facing today.
And that was a blanket finish in the Del Mar handicap as well. I took Marwad. I don't love him. I thought his price. I was looking through who the contenders would be.
He's a little bit
and
of
I thought it'd be the price.
intriguing one,
Well, I mean, he got very good down in Florida last year, and we'll take a look at his race when he finished 2nd to Value Engineering. He beat Masterpiece, who was in good form there. Masterpiece is a 12th here. We have that race from Gulfstream, the McDermott. I'll talk about McDermott while we're waiting for it. He used to run against Johnny D and Majestic Light. Scotty Schulhofer trained him. He was a really, really good horse. I think he had a big winning streak to start his career. You know, he got a prep on synthetic. I'm a little worried that he had run better on synthetic prior to this race, but he may have just needed a race coming up for 7+ months, and it was clearly a race to get him in for this race coming up here. And the way Value Engineering was running for Mike Maker, there's nothing wrong with this performance. I thought he fit in here. I thought he made some sense. He's sort of a mid-pack horse. I think it's wide open. Listen, I'm not ruling out Verstappen. He certainly can win this race. I don't think Masterpiece has no chance for Rick Dutrow, though his recent form has been atrocious. I thought it came up a super fun race.
I'm very excited about this one.
All right.
I like these races.
Yeah, I do too. The last race is one of the more interesting races on today's card. But I will say, as we go back to a winning trip for Icy Flavor.
I was surprised we ended up on the same horse, by the way, just as an aside.
Yeah, well, but
he's the wild
the more
card,
I thought about it when you picked her, you and I have a similar feeling on this horse. We'll probably both be wrong, but we're committed to betting this horse. But let's talk about Icy Flavor, and we'll take a look at the Del Mar win, because he actually ran okay in his return race, because that was a supersonic pace against Vacation Dance that completely and totally just incinerated, and he was chasing. Now he's got to get 6. I always concerned a little bit about that. I don't trust this horse totally, but he's the horse to beat.
I think he is too. He did win at 6 at Santa Anita when he broke his maiden, but I remember that race in Saratoga. I think I was in the paddock and you were on the set and talking about how the race played out, and I had liked Vacation Dance, but he really took advantage of the way that race set up, and he came running late, whereas Icy Flavor was really taking the worst of it. Then he ran on the dirt last time. He actually ran okay on a surface that he probably doesn't prefer, but he's definitely the one to beat with the speed. I just tried to get a little cute in here.
Go ahead.
Well, Image of Quality is a huge turf pedigree. Won first time out on the Tapeta up at Woodbine, but he's half to midday Image, who's a stakes winner, won 11 times sprinting on the turf. The Dam was a turf sprinter. Frank Conversation was a turf horse as well. It's kind
He
of
hasn't had any turf winner. He hasn't produced a single turf
which is
winner.
amazing.
Yeah.
But it's kind of one of those Generosio turf sprint pedigrees.
No, it's a big turf move up pedigree in the dam side, and Chris has been trying to get this horse on the turf now for 4 months.
Yeah,
I mean,
I know.
How many times has this horse been in AE
I
or
know.
rained off the turf? And I've just
That too.
wanted this horse, so I'm committed. I'm fully committed. But I also think blame it on Daddy is very interesting, because I like this horse cutting back in distance. That race at 7 furlongs was very good on Belmont Day. The horse kind of got shuffled out of the race, ended up 2-3 wide. It was a gold rail day, and I don't think she appreciated stretching out. I think she's going to be better with less distance in here. So I want to use blame it on Daddy. I just had to put the 8 on top because I've wanted her for so long. Yeah. How scared of Veterans Beach are you? Ever 3rd and 5 or 4th? Him, he's got race can win it. It's a big trainer change to Mike Maker, but to be honest with you, Mike Maker. And Dan Ward didn't have this horse on the turf, so it's not about Dan Ward. His numbers on trainer switches are not that good.
Which is interesting, too. I remember I was in the paddock for that October 20th race, and she said, nothing about this horse looks like a dirt horse. And obviously, he's not a dirt horse, so he goes back to the turf. I am wondering if he's better going a bit longer versus sprinting. I'm wondering kind of what his preferred situation is, but he runs it either. I mean, it's another Generazio pedigree. Actually, Christoph had this horse at the beginning of his career, and he's getting back to his preferred surface.
Did he win early at a big price for Christoph, somewhere very early in his career? I feel like he did. It may have even been Saratoga. Even Crease is not impossible, but I'd like to have the 5, 7, 8, 9 if I got into this race, but the 5 and 8 are the ones that I like as price possibilities here. Acacia, thanks.
Yes.
You will be in the paddock today. Greg and I will be in here in the warmth. Kyle, you staying with us all day? Or Kyle's staying here all day?
Lucky you.
Yeah, it's lucky for me. Not so great for Kyle, but okay for us. Head over to Naira Bets. If you're not a member of Naira Bets, no better time than the present. Use the promo code MATCH200 and we'll match with $200 of your initial deposit. We have 3 pick 4s, as we always do. Races 2, 4, and 7 on our 10 race card. Races 1 and 6 for our pick 5s. Race 5 for the pick 6. We have a $5,000 hit and split, so get involved in that early pick 5. Pick 5 starts at race 1. Opt in at Naira Bets. Get involved. You hit it. You split it with anyone at Naira Bets. If it's one person, it's just you. You get the whole $5,000. If it's 20, you get $250. If it's 200, you still get $25. So this is worth opting in. And I know people have taken down half. A couple friends of mine taken down a half and a third of the pool, actually. Yeah. So just a little extra bonus to playing that early pick 5. No show, but we'll be in the studios. Both Greg and I and Acacia will be out in the paddock. Have a great day. Chris Griffin up next to reprise Scratch and Changes.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Aqueduct. 10 races on today's Saturday afternoon card. Track is fast, turf is firm. Here are today's scratches and changes. Race 1, start of the early pick 5. Rider change on the 3, make it Ruben Silvera. Race 2, start of the early pick 4, scratch the 1, Prince of Joy. Race 3 is clear, no changes. Race 4 is clear, no changes. Race 5 is the start of the pick 6. Rider change on the 2, make it Eric Cancel. Scratch the 7, Pet Matt. Scratch the 12, Get Ready to Rock. Scratch the 13, Dangerous Driver. Scratch the 14, Bold Ambition. Scratch the 15, Otello. Scratch the 16, The Hero Code. Race 6 is the start of the late pick 5. The 8 is +1, and scratch the 10, Just Catherine. Race 7, start of the late pick 4. In race 7, the 4 is a gelding and previously ran as such. Race 8, Scratch the 1A, Colonel Bowman. Scratch the 6, My Harbor's Dream. Race 9, the 2, Where's the Cheek Piece Again? Scratch the 3, Main Event. Scratch the 9, Red Run. Scratch the 13, Classic Catch. Scratch the 14, Shoddy Shoddy Shoddy. Scratch the 16, Costa Terra. Race 10, scratch the 11, Shorts in the Winter. Scratch the 12, her one and only. Scratch the 13, Ortis. Scratch the 14, Red DGP. Scratch the 15, Dr. Settle's Dream. Main track is fast, turf is firm. Race 1 in the early pick 5 is next at Aqueduct. Good luck.